Level 0 on this scale is the kind of tornado most people mistake for just a bad storm, right up until their trash can achieves low Earth orbit. It corresponds roughly to an EF0 on the enhanced Fujita scale, with winds in the 65 to 85 miles per hour range, strong enough to tear shingles off roofs, peel siding, snap large tree branches, and knock over fences and light structures. Outdoor furniture, trampolines, and loose objects become airborne projectiles, and poorly anchored sheds or light mobile units can be pushed, tilted, or wrecked entirely. To someone watching from a distance, the damage may look minor. Some missing roof pieces, scattered debris, but at street level, flying glass and sharp fragments can injure anyone caught outside, and even parked cars can be dented or scratched by debris. The real horror here is psychological. This is the weakest tornado, and it is already capable of wrecking parts of your home and turning a quiet cul-de-sac into a yard sale explosion. In many cases, people don't realize a tornado has hit until they walk outside and find their backyard transformed into a debris field with objects they recognize now scattered across the neighborhood. If this is the bottom rung of the ladder, how comfortable do you feel climbing any higher? Level 1 steps into EF1 territory, where wind speeds jump to roughly 86 to 110 miles per hour, and the storm stops being cosmetic and starts getting personal with your house's structural integrity. At this level, partial roof loss becomes common, garage doors crumple inward, windows shatter, and entire trees, not just branches, are uprooted and thrown across roads, cars, or buildings. Once the outer seal of a home is broken, wind rushes inside, pressurizing rooms, blowing doors off hinges, and forcing walls to flex, crack, and sometimes fail at corners and entryways. Vehicles can be pushed, rotated, or nudged off their resting spots, and power lines are brought down, leaving dark, debris-strewn neighborhoods in the storm's wake. This is the point where people stop saying, "Hey, it's just wind," and start realizing their house is a very fancy cardboard box. The damage from a level 1 tornado is rarely fatal, but it can cause injuries from flying debris and leave homes vulnerable to water damage and further structural compromise. If level 1 can twist your garage like a soda can, what happens when the tornado stops knocking and just rips the front off entirely? Level 2 corresponds to the EF2 range, where wind speeds around 111 to 135 miles per hour cross the line into deeply structural damage, and survival often depends on exactly where you are when the vortex passes. Roofs are no longer just battered, they are removed, sometimes in large sections, while exterior walls collapse and entire sides of well-built homes can be torn away, leaving exposed interiors like a life-size dollhouse. Mobile homes are obliterated rather than shifted. Heavy vehicles like pickups can be lifted and thrown short distances, and power poles and large trees either snap at the trunk or are uprooted completely. Flying debris now includes heavy lumber, shattered glass, metal fragments, and roofing pieces moving fast enough to penetrate walls or vehicles, turning open areas and unreinforced structures into lethal environments. At this level, above-ground strong homes begin to fail in critical ways. Garages collapse, interior walls are compromised, and people outside or in mobile homes face life-threatening odds unless they reach a safe room or underground shelter. The aftermath of a level 2 tornado often involves significant cleanup, with entire blocks of homes damaged and trees blocking access to streets. When level 2 casually peels your house open like a sardine can, how much imagination do you really want to use on what level 3 does to the entire neighborhood? Level 3 is aligned with EF3 intensity, where winds of about 136 to 165 miles per hour transform localized destruction into wide, overwhelming demolition. Well-constructed homes can be destroyed, losing entire stories as both outer and inner walls collapse. Roofs are completely torn off, and even some steel frame structures bend, twist, or crumple. Vehicles are not just nudged or flipped, they are lofted and thrown, sometimes across streets or into buildings, and trees are stripped bare of branches and bark, leaving splintered trunks. The debris field becomes massively dangerous. Boards, pipes, and metal shards are accelerated to high speeds, able to puncture walls and windows, and render survival in unreinforced structures extremely unlikely. Roads become impassable due to mangled vehicles, downed poles, and tree piles, delaying emergency response not because no one knows what happened, but because they physically can't get in. In the aftermath, neighborhoods can be reduced to tangled piles of rubble where familiar landmarks vanish, and survivors walk through streets they know by memory, but no longer by sight. The cleanup from a level 3 tornado can take weeks, and the psychological impact is profound. Whole communities may be displaced for months. When an entire block can be wiped into indistinguishable wreckage at level 3, what exactly is left for the higher levels to improve on? Level 4 lines up with EF4 on the enhanced Fujita scale, where winds from 166 up to about 200 miles per hour move beyond destroying buildings and into systematically dismantling them down to their foundations. Entire homes, built to modern codes, are reduced to slabs, with debris scattered far from where the structures once stood. Even industrial buildings and warehouses suffer catastrophic structural failure, collapsing inward as steel beams bend and buckle. Vehicles such as heavy trucks and SUVs can be hurled hundreds of feet. Trees are debarked and sometimes uprooted entirely, and large debris chunks are launched with enough force to damage or penetrate reinforced concrete. The tornado's impact extends beyond buildings. Topsoil can be stripped from fields, vegetation is shredded, and pavement or asphalt can be peeled or gouged, leaving visible scars carved into the ground. In recorded EF4 events, brick medical centers have been crushed into rubble, large water tanks shifted off their bases, and entire residential blocks reduced to scattered fragments with only plumbing stubs or slabs indicating that homes ever existed. At this level, even solid, code-compliant structures no longer represent reliable safety. Only well-designed, reinforced shelters or underground bunkers offer meaningful protection. The aftermath of a level 4 tornado can reshape entire towns, with recovery measured in years rather than months. If level 4 can peel roads and rearrange steel, what do you call a storm that doesn't just vandalize a town, but erases it? Level 5 is where the scale hits EF5 territory, winds exceeding 200 miles per hour with no defined upper limit, and destruction so complete that the scale itself simply stops categorizing higher intensities. In these storms, even the best-built, anchor-bolted homes can be ripped entirely off their foundations and scattered. Multi-story buildings collapse, concrete walls are shattered, and vehicles and freight trains are tossed, mangled, or wrapped around trees or structures. Trees are not just debarked, they are reduced to bare, sometimes broken trunks with roots exposed or ripped from the ground, and the debris field becomes so chaotic and violent that above-ground safe spots like interior bathrooms or closets lose almost all protective value. Famous EF5 events have carved wide scars through towns and cities, flattening schools, erasing entire neighborhoods, and leaving nothing upright but fragments of infrastructure and scattered, unrecognizable wreckage. After an EF5 passes, the landscape can appear as a wasteland of slabs and splinters, making it hard for engineers to even determine what type of building once existed on a given foundation. At this point, the difference between stronger and strongest becomes academic. Anything not designed as a reinforced underground shelter is effectively negotiable. The psychological toll of a level 5 tornado is immense, with entire communities often needing to rebuild from scratch. When a storm is so strong that science just shrugs and caps the scale, what exactly lurks in the space beyond the numbers? Level 6 is the theoretical monster often nicknamed EF6. Not an official category, but a way to talk about tornadoes whose winds would exceed the already catastrophic EF5 threshold, possibly surpassing 318 miles per hour. Radar measurements during some historic events, like the 1999 Bridge Creek Moor tornado, have captured extreme wind speeds over 300 miles per hour. Yet these storms remain labeled EF5 because the current scale has no category above it. A true Level 6 event would imply destruction beyond even typical EF5 damage. Not only would buildings be removed from foundations, but anchored structures could be displaced entirely. Pavement could be peeled or ripped up on a massive scale, and reinforced underground shelters might be stressed or compromised. Large sections of terrain could be scoured several feet deep, with soil, vegetation, and debris lofted and redistributed so thoroughly that city blocks might vanish with almost no trace of their former layout. Some scientists argue that extending the scale beyond EF5 adds little practical value because once everything is obliterated, there is no obvious way to distinguish more obliterated, while others suggest that when instrumentation confirms higher wind speeds, classification should acknowledge that, if only symbolically. Historical giants like the 1925 tri-state tornado or the record-wide 2013 El Reno event may already have reached such intensities, but the combination of limited data and total destruction leaves their exact strength uncertain. Level 6 lives in that uneasy space between science and myth, a category reserved for storms that unmake not just buildings, but the idea of safety itself. The very thought of a level 6 tornado pushes the boundaries of what we understand about nature's fury. If EF5 is the eraser, level 6 is the hand that tears the entire page out of the notebook and asks, very quietly, what if this isn't even the worst the atmosphere can do? I hope you enjoyed venturing up all 7 levels of tornado horror and somehow finishing the video with your roof and sanity mostly intact. Drop a comment about which level terrified you the most, then like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next cosmic or terrestrial nightmare disguised as educational content. After all, if this is what the atmosphere does on a bad day, imagine what other CosmoBinge content will show up next time.